Are you ready for the next evolution of money? In a few years from now, a new form of currency will emerge, the central bank digital currency, or CBDC for short. Currently, we rely on a monetary system called fiat, which was established in 1971 after the United States led the world away from the gold standard.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
The gold standard was a system where the money in circulation, cash, coins, and other transactional instruments, was directly tied to the amount of gold a nation held in its reserves. This system constrained the amount of printed money, ensuring it was backed by a tangible asset and serving as a hedge against inflation that could devalue currencies. With the US securing an agreement with Saudi Arabia in 1974, making the US dollar the exclusive currency for crude oil trade and the de facto world reserve currency, the dollar effectively became the new gold standard. However, with rising international tensions against Russia due to the Ukraine conflict, the strengthening BRIC alliance, the expiration of the 50-year US-Saudi petrodollar agreement, and the staggering US national debt, the decline of the dollar seems inevitable, which is why many countries are moving their national assets away from the US dollars. When this happens, it could trigger a global financial collapse due to the dollar's central role as the world reserve currency. This anticipated financial collapse would mark the end of the fiat money system, which many experts argue is unsustainable and the primary cause of inflation and the high cost of living due to reckless money printing without substantial backing. The collapse would eventually make way for a new financial system, the CBDC. Technically, the concept of CBDCs isn't entirely new. We are already using digital money today. The adoption of digital cashless money was the first step. The second step was the introduction of cryptocurrency via Bitcoin in 2009. The next intermediate step was the advent of digital wallets, also known as vaccine certificates during COVID-19, that store your digital money. Google Pay, Apple Pay, Facebook Pay, Samsung Pay, etc.
Users will soon be able to store their COVID vaccination cards in the wallet app.
The final step will be the consolidation of these components and the formal adoption of CBDCs, after which cash will be completely banned. So what should you know about CBDCs beyond the media hype?
That's the guy who runs our economy in the UK. His name's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming. Yeah. And here's a quote from the article. This is in the Telegraph, the one he pulled up, but it was behind a paywall. So I'll just read the quote. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible.
Holy shit.
Now, I'm going to take it one step further for you, Joe, right? So the vaccine passport infrastructure is in place. But now we know that the vaccine doesn't stop infection or transmission, but the checkpoint Charlie exists everywhere. They bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go using vouchers that are programmed, and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them. There's another word for that, man. That's called the Chinese social credit system. That's what it's called. And anyone who watches Black Mirror will know what I'm talking about. What they are telling us, and when I say they, who's they? People in power. That's the head of our economy, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. He's telling us that's what he, as the UK, the head of the G7, want to bring in for the G7. So a scenario where, like in New York at the moment, because the passport infrastructure is in place, you bring in that digital currency and you've got this total control. And if I'm speaking to you the way I'm speaking now, and my employer or government, you heard that in the quote directly, yeah, deems me as saying or doing something inappropriate, suddenly I can't actually pay to come here and speak to you anymore. My digital currency won't even pay for the ticket because it will be known that I'm coming to speak to you. Sorry, your vouchers don't allow you to purchase that ticket to go and speak to Joe. During the Iraq War, Blair tried to bring in ID cards in Britain. He failed. Now he's back and he's trying to bring in digital ID during COVID. Right, so they're open about it.
So this is going to be this never-ending process to slowly move the goalposts
towards more and more authoritarianism. Checkpoint society. It's all there. They told us this.
People have to realize this, right? This is important.
Yeah.
Yes, you heard right. CBDCs are programmable money, coded so you can only spend it the way the government dictates this money could be programmed to purchase only specific goods and services, be restricted to certain locations, and even expire. Essentially, this currency could turn citizens into slaves of the government, or more specifically, those who control the government. So when CBDCs are implemented, be prepared to say goodbye to your freedom.
In cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that.
Unfortunately, Nigeria is one of only 3 countries that has fully implemented this. But how could something this diabolical be allowed to happen?
Democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded. So let us say, government by the retarded, for the retarded, of the retarded.
Well, perhaps that was too harsh. But the truth remained that while men were sleeping, the thief came into the barn to sow tares. There's an agenda program that will make this happen. The driver behind this idea is to reduce consumption in order to fight climate change by selling people carbon credit, which many dissenting experts consider a scam on the world. The second method to enforce this is by using universal basic income, UBI, as a bait. Currently, the economic devastation from the senseless COVID-19 lockdown has driven many into poverty. When the financial collapse occurs, even more people will lose their life savings and run to the government for help. The government will agree to help, but only on the condition that the payments are made through the CBDC platform. So the rich and middle class will subscribe to this idea because of how invested they are in the policies and business of climate change and other related SDG components, while the poor and destitute will be baited into it by welfare packages. The people pushing this are not legally part of the government, but they are an integral part of the government, hiding in the shadows and go by many names in different sectors. But colloquially, they can be referred to as the Davos Group.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
So expect a major event that will trigger the universal implementation of CBDC soon. This event may be blamed on a criminal cyber attack, Islamic terrorists, or Russia. But if you look beyond the headlines, you'll uncover the truth.